Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Geography Talk this morning. I'm just here to give you a couple of reminders before we start. We have a Q&A open if you have any questions during the talk. We'll be answering the questions at the end, so if you want to pop them into the chat as we go, we will get round to them later on. And this talk is going to be recorded, so just so that you know. I'm going to introduce Andrew Carr for you, who's going to be taking over. We also have Rowan, who is a student with us at the moment. Over to you, Andrew.
Okay, good morning. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to speak for about half an hour or so, just to talk you through the geography and geography-related courses we offer at Leicester, give you a little bit of a flavour about the content of each course and how they differ, and then a little bit about how we teach you, what it will be like to be a student here. And then Rohan, one of our current students, will also give you a little bit of the student perspective on what it's like to study at Leicester. Oops. So who am I? I'm the Geography and Environmental Science Admissions Tutor. I'm a physical geographer by training, and I teach various modules across the BSc Geography, Environmental Science and the Geology degrees that we offer in the School of Geography, Geology and Environment. My passion in my discipline is for all things deserts, so you may notice there is a slight preponderance of pictures of desert landscapes in this talk, which is just a little bit of personal bias for these kinds of landscapes. So I run field trip to California with our third years, and I've also carried out field work in places like Namibia and South Africa, so there are quite a few photos from that part of the world. Leicester's a great place to live. It's a great place to be a student. We're a reasonably compact campus university, and I work within the School of Geography, Geology and Environment. Why might you want to study in this school? Well, we run fairly medium-sized geography and environmental science courses. So we recruit typically about 60 to 70 geographers every year on the BA and BSc geography courses. So we have relatively a medium-sized cohort, which is really good because we get to know our students really well, and we have a really nice sense of community. All of the staff at Leicester are contributing to this program, and you'll spend lots of time with us on field trips and in practicals, and you'll get to know us really well. We're all located together with our colleagues who teach in geology in the Bennett building, all in one space together with staff and student study spaces and our teaching laboratories and our research laboratories. A lot of the courses I'm going to talk about are quite flexible. So, for example, if you're not sure whether you want to pursue a BA, a human geography degree, or a BSc, a physical geography degree at this stage, for most of the courses that we're going to talk about, it's very easy to change once you've begun your course with us. So if you do then take some classes and decide you'd like to change your focus, it's usually a very simple matter of filling out a form. So we're really proud of where our students go when they graduate from us. We spend a lot of time thinking about what we're teaching them, not just in terms of geographical concepts, but in terms of those transferable skills. And so we're really happy with our career prospects and graduate destination statistics at the moment. We generate some very talented and employable students. Okay, so Geography, Geology and Environment offers quite a few degrees across geography, geology and environmental science. There are about 28 staff within this who would attach themselves as geographers or geographers by training. We teach across 5 geography and 1 environmental science undergraduate degree. All of our staff are research active as well as teaching, so we have particular research strengths in environmental change, Earth observation and geographical information science, environmental governance, and geography. I tell you that partly because, of course, as an applicant, you might be thinking about what particularly interests you in these disciplines and where you might want to focus. And as I'll refer to later, a lot of courses have quite a bit of optionality in years 2 and particularly in years 3. And those optional modules tend to reflect staff expertise and specialism. So it's an important factor to think about if you have particular subjects that interest you, have a look particularly at third year modules. So these are the courses I'm going to talk about today. So we've got 4 geography courses on here, 3 geography courses on here, a geography and geology joint degree, and then a BSc in environmental science, which is a new course, which I'll talk about shortly. All of these can be studied as a 3-year degree, but all of them have the option, once you're at Leicester, to convert them into 4-year courses, where you will include, after 2 years at Leicester, either a year abroad or a year in industry, and that converts the degree title to with a year abroad or industry, and then you return from your year away to join what is your 4th year and take the courses in the at level 3 in the degree program. So I think one of the things I want to talk about at this stage, particularly if you're thinking of applying, you might be most interested in what is the differences between these courses in a general sense. So I'm not going to talk about every module on all of these courses, that would take much too long. There is some online material that you can look at, or we can talk more in the UniBuddy chat later if you have questions about particular modules on particular courses. Regardless, we teach these courses in a range of different ways. Each of these degrees will comprise a mixture of core and optional modules that are taken each year. Generally, the amount of core content, so these are modules that you must take and pass to progress, that decreases as you go through the degree, and you have more room for optionality, particularly in year 3. A lot of the core modules are about key either subject-specific knowledge, key theories in human geography, or key skills in geographical information science or laboratory skills. So that's about equipping you with the skills to be a geographer or an environmental scientist. But there are also some kind of core contents, foundation material, particularly in year 1 and part of year 2, that is core material. We teach in very different ways. The last 6 months in particular, we've taught in very different ways. But in general, under normal circumstances, your course would comprise a mixture of lectures, seminars, small group tutorials. Depending on the topic, there may be lab or computer practicals. And the mix of lecturing and small group teaching depends a little bit on the module and what we're trying to achieve, and also the numbers on courses. So typically you might have more lectures in the first year when there's larger classes, but by the 3rd year you could be having very small group teaching sessions. The other thing that's really important to us, particularly as geographers, is the role of fieldwork. So there's fieldwork in all of these degrees as core modules in years 1 and 2, and then as optional modules in year 3. Because we want you to show different skills as you go through your degree, we assess you in different ways. So the learning objectives of a module will be mapped to the kinds of assessment that you do, which means not everything is going to be an exam. And in fact, there are no modules that are entirely assessed by examination. Usually you'll have a mixture of coursework, multiple pieces of coursework, or a mixture of coursework and examination. And those pieces of coursework can be quite varied. So it's not just going to be essays. There could be all kinds of things ranging from presentations, videos, group projects, laboratory reports, reports of analyses, blogs, zines, all these sorts of varied ways of communicating we assess. And again, that links to the sorts of skills we want you to take from your degree, an ability to communicate in lots of different formats. Key to all these degrees, and I think the thing that makes a graduate stand out, is the presence of a final year dissertation or research project, which is led by the student in supervision with a allocated academic supervisor. And that really gives you an opportunity to demonstrate your strengths and to choose to focus on a subject that's particularly of interest to you. So that's a process that starts in year 2 in a research design module, and then the first half of your 3rd year will be spent working on your dissertation project with your supervisor to produce a pretty lengthy and very often quite impressive document that you'll submit midway through your 3rd year. Contact hours are quite variable because it depends on particular courses and modules that you might take. You can imagine that a module with a lot of field work is going to have a lot of quite intense contact time, but typically in 1st and 2nd year, then you're going to be finding 11 to 14 hours of timetable contact in years 1 and 2. That is time that's allocated in the timetable, so that will be classes that you're expected to attend. But contact is available in other ways. So, you know, staff have office hours. You can always make appointments with staff to meet them and communicate with them. So there is more scope for direct interaction than just what's on the timetable. And I think that's a really important thing to note. And it's something in a degree that you can drive as a student. Okay, so I'm going to talk about each of these degree programs, and I just want to give you the basic differences between them, and we could, if you have questions about the details, we can talk about that later. So the two degrees that we have the most applications are for, and the most students at any one moment for, are the what I call the standard BA Geography L700 and the BSc Geography F800, and these are both broad geography degrees. So the BA Geography is focused primarily on human geography, but you take physical geography in the first year as core content, and you will have some physical geography options retained in the second year and the third year as well. So this is why there's quite a bit of flexibility in the course, because both the BA and the BSc Geography have this common first year. So you do a bit of everything in year one. You get a flavour of what it's like to study these disciplines, these topics at university, and very often students might decide some things interest them more than others, and it's very easy to switch between the BA Geography and the BSc Geography at the end of the first year. So this BA Geography will have core fieldwork, UK based in year one, and normally international fieldwork in year two, and then optional fieldwork. Recent years this has been to Berlin in year three. So you'll take a broad suite of human physical geography in the first year, and then the second year you'll start to specialize a little bit more. So you'll have core modules in human geography theory and methods, and then optional modules in a range of human geography and crossover modules. And I think that's another important thing to point out, that although we have students on a BA and a BSc stream taking mostly human or mostly physical geography, there are modules that cross this discipline, and this is a really across those two disciplines. And that's a really important point about geography. What it means to be a geographer is that we think broadly, and we are able to recognize these linkages between the physical environment and society. So for example, in the second year, both BA and BSc geographers will take an environmental change, a climate change module. So a big class, but that's obviously a key linking topic of relevance across the discipline. And we had this this degree, the BA Geography and the BSc, accredited by the Royal Geographical Society last year. So we have some independent recognition of the breadth and rigour of these degrees within the geographical discipline. So this is the BSc Geography, so it's primarily focused on physical geography, but mirroring the last degree, you'll take some human geography in year one, and you'll retain some human geography options if you want to continue with those into year two. You can switch quite easily to BA at the end of year one, and like the BA, you'll do residential fieldwork in year one. We normally go to Devon, and year two, where we normally go to one trip to the Lake District and one to southern Spain. And then we have optional international fieldwork in year three, which, for example, is that California Mojave Desert trip that I'm involved in year three. So a bit like human geography, in the second year, you'll start to specialize a little bit more. You'll take some core modules relating to key skills for physical geographers. That might include lab work and data analysis skills, and also kind of core physical geography contents, such as catchment systems, how landscapes work and operate, the dynamic biosphere, how biogeography works, and how geographers seek to understand the patterns of life in space and time across the globe. And then there's a few examples of the third year specialties here, like water quality processes, or African drylands, or tropical forests of Southeast Asia. And you can see there's quite specific themes there that again map onto some of the staff research interests in the school. Now, one degree program that quite a lot of students are interested in, particularly if they have a social science background, is the BA Human Geography. So this is, it sounds similar to BA Geography, but there's one important difference, and this is that you don't take any physical geography in this degree. So if there is an option to take a social science focused degree that uses modules in human geography, that then brings in other courses from the university that are very closely allied with human geography and concepts in human geography. So in this degree, rather than taking physical geography in year 1 or having physical geography options in year 2, what you would do is you would take some courses in sociology, politics, and modern languages, and those are courses that are we expect will really map nicely and support what you're doing in human geography. Otherwise, most of the geography modules are the same, so it's really about adding in these extra flavors from other disciplines that go nicely with human geography. So here's some of the optional modules at the bottom of this slide are also on the BA Human Geography. But for example, power, privilege and diversity is a module from sociology. Okay, a new course that we've started recruiting to this year, and I'm really keen on this course because I'm someone with, I'm a physical geographer, but I took a lot of geology when I was an undergraduate, is this joint degree, BSc Physical Geography and Geology. So this is for people with an interest in the earth science and the scientific elements of the geographical discipline and geographical practices. And we designed this quite carefully, so it's not a pick and mix of random courses from geography and geology. It's actually selected courses from both disciplines that really map onto each other well. So this degree has a little bit less optionality than some of the other ones I've just mentioned. But what we've done is we've chosen courses that we think really support each other. So to give you an example, you might study contemporary landscape processes in catchment systems or river dynamics, which are modules in geography. But then they really nicely fit with sedimentology courses in geology, where you can link what you know about modern processes to what we see in the geological record. So it's about this kind of long-term perspective on how the Earth operates with these mutually supportive geoscience and geology and geography modules. So that's perhaps for those perhaps with a bit more of a science background, maybe thinking of geology, but like geography as well, so maybe want to combine the two subjects. We think this is the optimal way of combining those two disciplines for a joint degree. Finally, we have a new course, which we're just starting to advertise right now. So new material will appear for this over the coming weeks. I'm very excited to offer this. So we're now going to also be offering an environmental science degree. And this is a degree that brings in modules from other departments in the university, so biological sciences, geosciences and archaeology. And this is very much about building a holistic understanding of the Earth, life on Earth, and also the pressing environmental challenges that we face and the skills that you as an environmental scientist might need to address those. So there's a little bit more also on the kind of applied knowledge, such as conservation biology or water quality analysis and water quality management, natural resource management and the nature of natural resources. So this is quite a broad degree, has a lot of optionality. So once you're in environmental science, you might choose to focus on the geoscience or the biological science aspects of this discipline. Environmental science is a very broad discipline. As you'll see, if you look at most university courses in this area, they usually have a lot of modules available within them because it is obviously quite a broad program. So we're really pleased to be offering that with our colleagues in biological sciences and archaeology, and that's something that we're looking forward to recruiting students to. So as I mentioned, particularly with the third year modules, our teaching is research led. And I think it's important to highlight that our staff teach across the course and are research active. So I give an example here of my colleague, Professor Sue Page, who's an award-winning geographer, also a lead author on the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change reports, which is the big reviews of the problem of climate change and how we deal with it. which produce reports for governments across the world on how we might manage these things. So Sue is a big player in this area, but she teaches some of the key modules in our degree program as well. So that second year climate change module that all geographers, BA and BSc alike, will take is led by Sue. And I think that's a really nice example of someone who's at the cutting edge of her discipline, contributing to our teaching. And I'm not embarrassed to talk about that. I think that's a great strength of the degrees we're offering at Leicester, and I really think it's quite important to highlight that. So we're really keen to encourage students to engage with what's going on in their disciplines. So we have school-wide seminar programs that ostensibly are research seminars, but students are invited to these. It's even easier these days with Teams and Zoom. And we have quite active geography and geology societies within the school who also organise their own programs of speakers and invite academics and professionals from around the world to speak at these events. So we do want students to get stuck in with the research and to recognise that learning at university moves a long way beyond textbooks to the cutting edge research in the discipline. That relates not just to things like dissertations, but just to the whole environment that you're experiencing throughout your time with us. So all students who come to us will have a personal tutor who they will get to know, who will be assigned to them throughout their degree. And that's the key point of contact for pastoral support. So your personal tutor will be someone you will really get to know. You will meet them throughout the course. They'll invite you to come and see them, or you're welcome to make appointments to see them at other times. And they will also, on a lot of these courses, teach your first year tutorial classes as well. So you'll immediately get to know your personal tutor. They will be able to offer you lots of key advice on studying, or if you have any other needs or support. Usually the personal tutor is the first port of call. And then usually as a personal tutor, I have the pleasure of writing a reference for my tutees when they graduate and they're applying for really interesting and varied jobs and courses after their geography degree. So staff have regular office hours. Normally they're pinned to our door. For the last few months, they've been obviously online office hours, but we've managed to make that work pretty well with Teams and Zoom and things. All students will have personalised electronic timetables, and pretty much everything these days is digital. So your coursework will be submitted electronically, the work will be marked electronically and annotated, and will be returned to you via the Blackboard learning environment once that work has been marked and graded. So the Blackboard is a virtual learning environment, a web-based system where we manage our courses. That includes marking and return of coursework and the course material itself. So lectures, even before we went online because of COVID, were recorded routinely and are placed within that environment, along with the lecture slides and the reading lists and perhaps exercises for students to work on. We have a peer mentoring scheme, so our third year geographers and environmental scientists and geographers are often buddied up with first year students, because one of the things we think about a lot is this transition between school and university. It is quite a different environment and it can be quite daunting. So we have this buddy system for the third years to pass on their experiences and wisdom from their time with us to the new students. And we have a very active staff student committee. So one of the main roles of this is to talk about the teaching program. That's chaired and run by our students with course reps from across each year group and each degree program. And we use that to talk about how the program's going, how we might improve it, and how we might support students better. And that's a very active group, very proactive students, and we're very happy to engage with that. So Leicester geographers are really employable. We have some fantastic statistics in recent years about the rates of employment and some really interesting destinations for our students. We have invested quite a lot of time in this. So we have geography specific careers days. We have a specific module called Geography in Education, which is for people interested in teaching or working with young people in general. And that involves placements in local schools and in the second semester of the second year. And we now embed something called the Leicester Award for Employability within the degree program. So this is a program where you think about, reflect, and practice different skills that are relevant to the workplace. You think about what your skills are, what your personality traits are, and how you might sell yourself in future employment. And that's now actually embedded within modules. So in first and second year modules, we have times when we bring in people from the careers service, and we try to map those activities to the modules as well, so people can reflect on, for example, working as a team. So you're out in the field, got a problem to solve as a group, there's an experience of teamwork, and you can reflect on how you work together and how you might use that experience in your future career and to market yourself on the jobs market. So geographers have a really wide range of destinations, and I think that's the key number one observation of what can you do with a geography degree, and the answer is an awful lot, actually. It's a diverse discipline, so students will come out with potentially quite different specialisms depending on what they focused on in their degree, but they're all going to have a lot of core skills that are transferable and marketable in the job market. And these are some of the destinations that we take from our LinkedIn pages. So we have a geography LinkedIn page, and we've connected with graduates going right back into the late 1980s and early 1990s. And that's a really interesting way of seeing where our graduates go, because you actually get that long view of their career and what they did with their degree and how they built on that. So you can see there are some kind of more obvious jobs that are related to geography, so GIS and remote sensing consultancy, so working with satellite data and spatial data is a big area of employment for geographers, and you'd be surprised just how prevalent, particularly the spatial data, the GIS, is in business these days. Any organization that has materials and elements of its business in multiple places probably is dealing with spatial data and needs people able to analyze that. But you can see also hydrologists, environment agency feature quite highly, local and national government as well. So we're broadly equipped for the jobs market, and I think that serves us well as we're going forward into our careers. Okay, I'm just going to say a couple more things. I'm going to hand over to Rohan to talk a bit about what it's like to be a student. So I mentioned there's a study abroad option on all these courses. So we have options for that third year abroad in Europe and in North America and Australia and United States and Canada. That's something you will apply to once you're with us, so you don't need to make a decision on that now. We put the call out at the end of the first year, and you can get some information on the different institutions that you could go to and the sorts of geography courses they offer. And so you can also use that to diversify your knowledge of the discipline, because you'll get slightly different perspectives on various topics in geography from those courses. We have international fieldwork as core in the second year and as options in the third year, and that's quite an important element of our degree. In the physical geography, normally students, we go on an Amazonian field trip in the third year to Colombian Amazon, and then Mojave trip that I talked about earlier, and the human geographers have run a trip to Berlin in the third year as well, which is a really interesting trip, thinking about how Europe's changed in the 20th century in particular. So all of our facilities are in the Bennett building together. We've had a lot of investment in both the student study spaces in that building, which is a really important element, I think, for the students, having a space that's dedicated to the GGE students and is not timetabled, but has space for them to work and to meet and to work as a group. And we've had quite a lot of laboratory investment. So, for instance, we have a couple of specialist laboratories which are also available to students, and we teach material relating to these. So that includes the stable isotope laboratory and the geochronology or dating laboratory, which I'm involved in. Okay, I'm going to hand over to Rohan, who's going to give you a bit of a sense of what it's actually like to be a student here.
Thanks, Andy. So hi everyone, my name's Rohan. I'm a second year BA geography student and I'm originally from Birmingham. And what I'm going to try and do in the next 5 minutes or so is give a bit of a student perspective of studying geography here at the University of Leicester, because really when you come to an open day, you are a prospective student and you really need to know, you really would like to know the student perspective of studying here. So I guess the question I get a lot is, why did I choose Leicester? And Leicester was actually the last university I came to look at, but immediately I was really amazed by the friendly and welcoming department that was offered. It's a nice small size, and even now you can walk through the building and everyone will smile and say hi in the corridor. And it sounds like a small thing, but it really does emphasise how friendly and welcoming we are as a department. I think we have a really wide range of courses and modules, so depending on what interests you in geography, environmental science, or geology, you can really pick and choose your modules as you get further on through the course, or even try something new. And that for me was really, really important, as I knew I wanted to take predominantly human geography, but keep a small amount of physical geography, particularly in first year. I really liked how Leicester was a small city. So I come from Birmingham, which is a much bigger city. And I do like how in Leicester you can walk everywhere. So it's just, you get all the aspects of the city, all the facilities and things like that, but you're still able, almost everything is in walking distance, which is really nice. You don't have to be waiting around for trains or buses like I have to back home. And I really like the facilities we have here in Leicester, both as a department, including the my personal favourite being the newly refurbished study room, which is really nice to hang out, study in. It's got computers, sofas, desks and things like that. And it's also really close to all the lecturers' offices, so you can just go and knock on their door if you've got any questions, or drop them an email like that. I think studying geography in general, and particularly here at Leicester, is a really good chance to broaden your horizons and your perspectives on geography. I was really amazed by the variety of modules. There's so much more variety than at A-level or equivalent qualifications at school or college. And there's plenty of flexibility and choice around the modules and areas of geography that you can choose. And I really like that. And I did find that quite eye-opening. There's many areas of geography I'd never heard of before I came here to the university. There's plenty of work-related options as well. So there's the option to take a year abroad or a year in industry. And one thing for me that particularly caught my eye was the option of the Geography and Education module in the second term of second year, where you actually are able to get placements in local schools. And I have a particular passion for working with young people through voluntary work I've done. So I found that like a really interesting module that I'm looking forward to. Another thing that really picked it for me was the variety of assessment modules. I personally have never done very well in exams, so I've always struggled with exam-based assessment. So GCSE and A-levels, which are predominantly exams, were always an interesting concept for me. So I like the idea of having some exams still, but also coursework and lots of varieties of coursework between essays, fieldwork reports, projects and things like that, which have really given a variety and also developed plenty of skills for the world of work as well. I think university life is not all about studying. It is predominantly, but there are plenty of opportunities to have fun and get out and do different things. So one thing I particularly do, and the picture of me in the orange coat is not a geography field trip. I will point that out before anyone gets worried. That is actually myself on a mountaineering trip last year. So I took up mountaineering when I started university. I'd done a little bit before, but on various occasions, but nothing particularly serious. And I really loved the idea of being able to take up a new sport completely as a novice at university, be able to train and meet people 2 or 3 times a week and get to know a different bunch of people. And we go on regular trips and things in normal times, because obviously Leicester's not exactly the most rural place for climbing, but it's certainly great fun. And through societies, they're all run by students, so you're able to become a committee member. So I did this year, and I got myself the job of organising our trip schedule, which is of course with COVID very interesting, and it's become a very fun job to sort of negotiate and work out what we can and can't do. But it also gives you really good life skills. So I've certainly developed a lot of skills in working with accommodation, transport, the university, the students' union, and also national governing bodies as well, which is always a really good skill to learn to work with different people. You can also, when you're getting involved, become a peer mentor in your years 2 and above. So I became a peer mentor this year, and my peer mentor last year was really helpful when I was in first year, being able to tell me if I just wanted some advice about studying or even just a good restaurant or things like that. It was really useful. You're also able to join the Geography Society, which is really useful, and a really good place to see lots of other geographers, learn, meet other people, and see have lots of fun times with other people who study geography and have careers events, social events and more. I think a key selling point of Leicester is that you're not just a face in the crowd. So the small class sizes were a really good point for me, and you get really good engagement with your lecturers and staff, and you can be on first name terms with them in no time. And we're a really close-knit community through that. One thing that I picked up from there is my personal tutor. So everyone, as Andy said, gets a personal tutor, and that was really helpful. That is really helpful with any academic or personal issues, especially in the first year when moving to uni can seem very daunting. And it's certainly not always going to be plain sailing. So it's really helpful to be able to speak to someone and see where that goes. One other question I often get a lot is, what do I want to do in the future? And it's a very big question, and I don't think I can give an exact answer to that. But I do really like the idea of being able to combine my hobbies, which are working in the outdoors, so in climbing and walking and stuff like that, with my passion for geography as a geographer, and also working with young people. And there's plenty of job roles that I'd quite like to try out in that area. So that's just sort of a crash course from me about the student perspective of studying here at Leicester. If you do have any questions, please feel free to ask them, and I'll be around on UniBuddy later today, and always on the chat function of UniBuddy. So I'll hand back over to Andrew now.
So obviously you apply through UCAS. The standard entry requirements for all of our degrees is ABB, or UCAS points equivalent. It's slightly reduced if you're taking the extended project qualification. For the geography degrees, the 3 geography degrees, so the BA, the BSc and the BA Human Geography, you don't actually require A-level geography. We teach everything from the beginning. So pretty much any 3 A-levels will do for geography. We will accept general studies. For the joint geography, geology and the environmental science, we do ask for 2 broadly termed science A-levels. So we've included not just the sort of physics and chemistry, but within the broad area of science, we do ask for 2 A-levels for those courses. We will be holding offer holder events in the new year. The exact form of them might depend on what happens in the coming months, but we hope to be able to offer opportunities for you to talk. If you apply and we make you an offer, to talk with us in detail about the particular aspects of these individual courses, which we probably don't have quite as much time to go into today. Okay, so just to summarize, we have a nice group at Leicester and a good vibe and a very nice relationship with our students. So it's a nice place to be a student. We have quite a lot of flexibility in all of these courses, and that partly reflects the way we've built the degrees, using modules, particularly in the first year, to give people common foundations that allow them then to pick and choose and specialize as they go through their degree later on. We've got some lovely facilities, and I think it's really important to emphasize that, particularly in the third year, what we will teach with research facilities, that students will get to use these if they're interested in these sorts of facilities in their in the things like their dissertation project. All of these courses have been refreshed in the last couple of years and are new courses in the case of 2 of them. And we're very aware of the sorts of investment you're making in taking a degree, and so we're very aware of the skills we need to give you to get the most out of having a degree and to sell yourself in the future as a graduate. I think that's all I'm going to say for now, because we're probably going to run out of time. But if you want to see images of what we do and our students do, then we've got various Twitter and Instagram and the university's on-demand videos if you want to know more about what we teach and what our students do. So I'm going to stop there, and if we've got any time for some questions, then we could do that.
We have 5 minutes for some questions, and we've had a question in already, which is, do you usually see mature students on the geography course?
Not that many, but we certainly welcome them, and we've certainly had them before. So yes, I mean, we are open to everyone, and we have a very diverse student body in geography. I think that's one of the, in terms of backgrounds, where students are from, and so I think we're quick to support anyone really. So yeah, definitely drop us a line. And if you have more specific questions about what that might mean to you, or what you might concern you about that, or we can talk more. But certainly I remember very well some students that I've taught who have been mature or from different routes into education.
Thanks for that. I can actually add a little, because mature students are my area of expertise on student recruitment. And we have around 9% of our student body are over 21 when they start their undergraduate degree. So you might find yourself as the only mature student on your particular course or a particular module, but you're certainly not the only one there at the university. We have a series of sort of additional support for you. Once you've applied to us, you'll get regular emails from myself to talk about all sorts of different aspects of getting you settled in. So there's quite a lot out there. We have a second question as well, which are the field trips a requirement or are they optional?
Those in the first and second year are part of core modules, so they're a requirement. And those in the third year are the optional field trips. So those have their own module associated with them. And actually the mass majority of the teaching in the optional field trip modules is done on the field trip. So you get a very intense couple of weeks in the field, and then you might do some work relating to that when you return to Leicester.
Fantastic. As we do have an extra question. Here we go. Oh, how many students typically go for human geography?
Normally there's about a 50-50 split, so between physical and human geography. And that's actually also what we aim at, because our staff, our expertise-wise, are broadly 50-50 split as well. So if you're on a BA course this year, we recruited, pretty much 50%, a little bit more, I think, this year actually. We've got growing numbers in the BA human geography in recent years, so that's pushed a slight imbalance towards a bit more human geographers in the courses. So I think we sort of 55-45 kind of split percentage wise this year. So you're looking at sort of 30 to 35 human geographers in any cohort. Fantastic.
It looks like that could be the end of our questions. So we're almost there. I'll give it a minute or so. Actually, in the meantime, Andrew, this is the question I pose to you most of the time if I'm doing comparing this talk for you, which is what's a typical day like on one of the field trips?
It usually involves getting up relatively early, but not too early. So we'd normally be breakfasting 7ish. We normally aim to be out in the field 8:30. We normally do full days in the field, so they're quite, they can be long days. You might not be back till 6, and we do make the most of the time in the field. So it depends a little bit on the field trip. But normally there's a plan. There'll be a theme for the day, for example, and we might have a couple of destinations. So in the first year Devon field trip that I'm involved in, we have different themes for each day, and on those days we might have different stops. Each of those stop having an activity. In the second year, the field trips they're integrated with the research design modules, which are there for people to develop their dissertations. So often we have some of the days will be devoted to mini projects. So students might have worked the evening before to work up a project idea and how they're going to tackle it. And we'll have a bus full of equipment, and then they can take their equipment and work on their project the following day, and the staff will move around between the groups to talk through how they're tackling their problems. And sometimes we leave them to sweat a little bit, to work as a group and to try and work things through themselves, and then we'll come back and see how they're getting on. So it's a little bit of a mixture. It depends a little bit on which field trip and what the objectives of the field trip are, and what the objectives of the module the field trip is associated with. So it's a bit varied, but normally it's a kind of a work hard, play hard environment. So you do a long day in the field, but usually we have some good leisure time in the evenings as well. And, they're usually tiring, but in a good way, shall I say. We do make the most of them, and they're really great. I mean, we have, the California trip, we all kind of sit around the fire in the evenings, and it's really nice. So we get to know each other well, and enjoy the interesting environments that we visit.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Andrew and Rohan. Thanks for joining us today on this particular talk. We're going to wrap it up now, so it gives you 15 minutes for a quick break if you're looking at going into any of the talks that start at 12 o'clock. So there is a fees and funding talk. It's actually myself giving that one, so you might see my face again. But we also have a series of other academic talks as well, sort of economics, biological sciences, English, film studies, criminology, geology, natural sciences and politics. So if you're interested in any of those as well as geography, you might want to head over there. But the Unibuddy chats are also taking place, so if you go back to the main event page, you'll be able to have a chat with, I think Andrew's on there and Rohan afterwards if you have further questions. So thank you very much, everyone, and we hope to see you again.